Hello, we're here again now with the X3 bar. This is the force bar specifically, and the hook rings already attached and they stay on. Now, obviously, what I'm going to show now is how to use it to actually use it with the force bar, but this is how you use it to shorten or to extend the band with any of the bars, because you could use it with the classic bar, you could use it with the long bar, you could use it with the regular elite bar. So in order to shorten the bands, obviously, let's say that this is a 41-inch band, and let's say you were going to shorten it for or use it for chest press. So the 41-inch band, you could use it in the regular position, as in so. You see, it went through the regular slot, and then you just right here, it will be a regular band, a regular 41-inch band. So let's say you were going to calibrate it like this. If you calibrate it like this, you're big enough to use it with a 41-inch band, you will get a regular reading. There's no problem. So you could use it just like this and calibrate it with the white band. You will calibrate it with this band and use it with whatever band you use it, the dark gray, the light gray, whatever band you use, and it will work perfectly fine. It'll give you an accurate reading. So you could leave the hooks on and calibrate it with the hook on, and then use it with whatever band, and you're going to get an accurate reading. The problem comes is, let's say that you need to shorten it, that you're already used to that band, and you want to shorten it. And here's how you shorten. You could shorten one side or shorten both sides. But let's say that you were shortening it on both sides, and you had it calibrated the other way with you calibrated the regular way. If you shorten the band now, which right now like this, it should give you more, right? The reading on the force bar should be more. Instead, what happens if you had calibrated it normally, the reading on the force bar will be less, which makes no sense because the band is stronger. It's stronger because it's shorter. If you wanted to read accurately, let's say that you started with the band in the regular position and you've done it for a month or two, and now you want to shorten it. All you do is you grab this same band, the same white one, and you calibrate it with it shortened on both sides or one side. And then when you do your regular chest press, let's say you now do the chest press, you get a stronger reading. So all you got to do in order to use it with the force bar is you calibrate it in the way you're going to use it. So if you're going to use it with the band shortened, you would calibrate it with the band shortened. And then you could go back and beat whichever force bar that whichever rating you were using. Because if you were using a long band, let's say a long white band or a long, let's say the dark gray band, and you shorten it, you want to say, I want to beat that old score. Well, but you got to then calibrate it first with it shortened. Once you calibrate it with it shortened again, and you go back and do it, you're going to get a stronger reading, and then you'll be able to beat that number usually. All right. So all you have to do to use it with the force bar is calibrate it in the way that you're going to use it. In other words, you can't use the calibration from the regular position to the shortened position. It gives you an off reading. The same way as there are people that say they like to do the X chest press. If you're going to do the X chest press, whether shortened or not, you got to calibrate it in the X chest press position first. You can't calibrate it regular. So in other words, you can't put the band in the regular position here, which would be just in the regular hook position here, and then do the X and then expect the regular the reading. You have to calibrate it with it in the X position. Then it'll give you as close to a measurement as possible to what you're setting up. So in other words, if you're going to shorten, you got to calibrate it shortened. Also, I would recommend that whenever you're using the hooks, or if you're going to be using the hooks, you know how when you set the bar on the floor or on a flat, and you tear the bar and you put the hooks on, and on the app you re-tear the bar, you tear the set, and then this sets the settings on how the hooks affect the bar. All right, so you tear the bar, you recalibrate that tear that is done, and then just calibrate how you're going to use it. You could calibrate it shortened, you could calibrate it with it You could also calibrate it if you want to, let's say, extend the bar band. When you extend the band, because some people are so big that they can't get into the band, and you want to use it here, you got to calibrate it with it extended like that, where you calibrate it with whatever position. If you're going to use one hook to extend, or if you're going to use both hooks to extend, you calibrate it like that. All right. And then you're going to get the most accurate reading you can. So, in other words, if you're going to use the force bar to get readings, you got to calibrate it with the band in the position you're going to use it. If it's going to be shortened, you calibrate it shortened. If it's going to be extended, you calibrate it extended. If you're going to shorten one side only, calibrate it only one side. Then, but what's good about it is that you could actually go, if you want a heavy deadlift with the long bands, you could go with the heavy long bands and then just calibrate it for when you shorten it. And then you shorten and you do your band from a lower position. So you could use it. It's that versatile, and you could use it between people because calibrating takes no time. Calibrating is 5 reps. So if you want to use it, if somebody has to use it in the regular position for, let's say, their wife, and then they're going to shorten it, you could just re-shorten it and then use the bar for somebody that's smaller with his shortened bands. So it's able to be used and get pretty accurate readings with the force bar as long as you're going to calibrate it. That's if you're trying to actually beat a record that or a setting that has the band in the regular position. If you don't really care, then you could just use it shortened and beat that position. It really doesn't matter. But if you want to get as accurate a reading as possible, just calibrate it to the way you're going to use it. In other words, if it's going to be shortened, calibrate with it shortened, then use the bar. And as you can see, this is how you shorten. When you shorten the band, you just go like this, pass it through here, and loop it here. Now that band is shortened. If you shorten both sides that way, you're going to get almost like a 34 to 32-inch band. If you shorten only one side, you're going to get like a 35 to 37-inch band from a 41. You could obviously shorten twice, which you could also shorten by going like this, where you're shorting like a double loop on one side. Now you really make it short. Again, you could do it. You could choose your level that you need to shorten. That depends on the person. Very individual. You could also, one really good thing about it is, because I know a lot of people, when they do curls, complain that sometimes the band hits their knuckles. Well, if you pass the band, if you calibrate the band here at the bottom, if you notice now, the band could never hit your knuckles when you're curling, because now there's a huge gap between it. Now, if you're saying, but this makes the band longer, but it's actually, what if you want to actually feel the band, what you would do is you would do it like this. Now, if you notice, the band is not any longer anymore, because what's happening now is the band is being shortened. In reality, you have a shortened band, even though you have space in between the bar. All right? Because what's happening now is being held like that, and you have a shortened band. So you could shorten the band, and still have the space in between here that it doesn't hit your knuckles. Makes it very comfortable for when you curl.